You're listening to the Murphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Murphology Podcast, aka Murph here, to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week, we will get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? Well, listeners, I did it! I rode my bicycle all the way across the United States. I biked with Team Biking to Remember. We started March 12th in San Diego, California, and we made our way across 8 states using the Adventure Cycling Southern Tier maps. It took us 64 days and 3,080 miles to pedal from coast to coast, and we reached the Atlantic Ocean on May 14th. Along the way, we met up with Alzheimer Association chapters, held events, and with the support of family, friends, and complete strangers, we were able to raise over $32,000 for the Alzheimer's Association. I recently met up with Andrea Parrott, my co-host over at the Just Go Bike podcast, to talk about the second half of this great adventure. Here's the interview.
Hey, Murph, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. How are you doing, AP?
I'm fantastic. Well, I think the last time I talked to you, you were in Texas, but where are you now?
I know. It's crazy to think this, but I am back home in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Woo!
I know.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's hard to, it still hasn't really sunk in, but I rode my bike across the entire United States.
Ermagerd, that is huge.
It is huge. I don't know. It's hard to, it's really hard to put into words, but I guess since we're on a podcast, we probably should. I should probably figure out how to put it into words, right?
Yeah. I'm going to ask you all these questions about the end of your trip, because we talked about the first 2/3 of your trip.
Yeah.
And now I want to find out all about the end.
Okay.
So,
well.
First question, you're back in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
Are your plants all alive? I know you have an extensive house plant collection.
I do. Yes. So my very favorite group of plants I shipped off to a friend, and they lived at her house for the entire time I was gone. And I have not asked her if they're alive, but I feel like she would have told me if they didn't make it. So those are hopefully thriving. And then I had quite a few that I left here at home, but I've had people coming in and out, and they don't look as healthy as they did in March, but no one died. So that is good. And I spent some significant time yesterday, checking them out, saying hello, telling them that I'm back. So hopefully they'll be green and thriving again soon.
Oh, I'm sure they will be. All
Yes.
right. Well, I had to check on that. So, all right. So you biked across the U.S. Give us just a really quick reminder about why you did it. How long did it take, and who are you riding with?
Yes. Okay. So we did it to support the Alzheimer's Association. We have direct connections to Alzheimer's as far as family members, and we were doing Bike Ride Across America as kind of a bucket list item, but then also taking the time to meet with Alzheimer's chapters. We had jerseys and t-shirts that said we were part of an Alzheimer's team, which meant random people would walk up to us and tell us their story about Alzheimer's and then also give us money. So that part was awesome. And the group, there were 3 of us that did every single mile.
Wow.
And it was kind of something that Jenny Lorenz started because her mom is basically in hospice right now with Alzheimer's. So it was her dream. She invited us. And so me and Todd Brown said, yes, we'll do it. And then throughout the trip, we had people coming and going based on their work schedules. So as we hit the ocean on day 64, there were 6 of us that got to dip our tires, and Jenny had secretly, well, not secretly because I knew she did it too, but had bought these huge, 5 bottles of champagne. And so as we hit the water, took our pictures, then we shook up some champagne and squirted it all over. So that part was fun.
I love it.
Yeah. But we, to date, we've raised over $32,000 that went directly to the Alzheimer's Association, and we're having like a wrap-up party May 24th here in Cedar Rapids, and we're hoping to, get a little bit more money in that pot. So, and Alzheimer's is such a huge organization. $32,000 probably isn't going to be life-changing for somebody who's suffering, but we're very hopeful that it goes to something that will, bring, I don't know, either attention or go to research or something that will help the Alzheimer's Association.
I mean, that's no small amount of money. I'm sure it'll help them.
Yeah. And then a few stats for you. We had almost 100,000 feet of elevation gain, which is mind-blowing. That's like pedaling to the top of Mount Everest 3 times.
3 times.
Crazy, yeah. And then we ended up 3,080 miles of pedaling. Guess how many rain days we had?
0?
Well, technically 1 that we got rained on, but you're right.
Wow.
0 days. We had to ride in the rain 1 day, which we all had the gear. We weren't afraid of riding in the rain, but it ended up thunder and lightning. So we had to pull the plug on that day. But the other days that it rained, we were able to get our bike ride started early or started late. And so we had 0 rain days. Pretty crazy.
That's like a unicorn. It never happens.
Yeah, I know. So we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've asked you this question a couple times throughout the podcast while you've been riding, but I want to ask you one last time. Was there anything that surprised you about the trip? Was it easier than expected, or was there anything that was harder than expected?
Yeah, something that I really, really enjoyed was meeting the people along the route. I guess I never really thought it through, but every time you told somebody that we were riding our bikes to raise money for Alzheimer's, everyone really had a heartfelt story to tell us, whether it was a direct family member or a relative or, a friend of a friend. Like, everyone has a story that they are willing to share, and that was really kind of unexpected, I guess, because I knew that we would meet a lot of people, but gosh, we're sitting at a coffee shop and we are all wearing the same jersey, which are purple, and some woman walked over and said, what's the reason that you're all wearing the same jersey? They were from England, and we were actually at wherever the Fountain of Youth is, which spoiler alert, it does not work. So I know I'm not going to be 25 forever. But anyways,
I thought you looked a lot younger when I saw you the other day.
You did compliment me on my skin, but
see, it worked a little.
Yeah. But this couple walked up, and they're from England, and the reason that they're in the United States is because this woman's mother had just died like 3 days earlier from Alzheimer's, and she was back in the States to kind of deal with everything that goes along with a parent passing away. So it was, they end up spending like an hour sitting with us and kind of telling her story. And it was just, I don't know, things like that are just mind blowing to me.
Yeah. It just seems like having someone with Alzheimer's or dementia is such a life altering event.
Yeah.
Especially, even if it's not you that has the disease,
right.
That having the shared stories and the commiseration really helps, or at least I imagine it would.
Yeah, I think so. I think that she walked away from that, us, all sitting and talking, feeling better. She was kind of, ready to get on with whatever happens next with her family. So that part was good. But as far as we averaged between 50 and 60 miles per day. And I was surprised that it was not as strenuous as I thought it would be. You know what I mean? Like 50 miles isn't a ton, but when you do it every single day. But I think I've got to give a shout out to my team that I was biking with, because if it was windy or hilly, they were very accommodating with, Murph, you need to get behind so-and-so because he's got really broad shoulders and he'll block the wind. Or when we're going up hills, we would kind of tone back the power that we were putting forth on our pedals so that, because you can't go all out because you still have 60 more days to go, or however far along we are in the trip. And I didn't point out, but I should, but everyone I was biking with were like uber endurance athletes. Like they've all done Ironman triathlons. They've all like done epic, crazy marathons, endurance rides. And here's me, I'm a recreational rider. I still ride my bike a lot, but I don't have the mindset that when I get on my bike, I'm racing. When I get on my bike, I'm just going to have fun. And I may, ride 100-mile century ride, but I don't have that competitive nature in me. So it was funny. There were days when I'd be like, you guys, seriously, recreational ride.
Yeah. Like, we're not doing this for fun, but we're kind of doing this for fun. So, like, we're not timing it.
Right. Yeah. There's no timing chips on this. There will be no podiums. And it was very clear going into it. Like, I would have not gone on this trip if everyone would have said, we want to try and get across the United States as fast as possible, because that's just not in my nature. So I made it clear, and the team made it clear back that, we are making this a recreational ride. We want people from the community, if they want to bike with us, they can. And that happened many times, which was also pretty cool.
Yeah. And all that being said, you're still going to kick my butt the next time we bike together. So I have like 1/10 of your miles, if that. So, all right. So let's see. I guess I wanted to ask you earlier in the podcast, or a previous podcast, I asked you about breaking in your brand new bike on the trip. Now it's not really brand new anymore, but how did it hold up after 3,000 plus miles?
It was amazing. So Kona is what I have, and it performed beautifully up until the very end. We had quite a few tire punctures, and that's a little bit different than a flat tire because we're set up on tubeless, which means there's no inner tube in the tire and there's fluid in there. So when you run over like a nail or a sharp piece of something, typically that fluid will fill the hole, and somehow magically it goes back to a solid tire. And then you don't have to change it, which you couldn't anyway if you don't have a tube in it. So we had, I'm not going to say hundreds of punctures, but I would guess between all of us, probably close to 50 tire punctures.
Oh my gosh.
And sometimes the punctures got too big that you had to put, it's very similar to a plug on a tire, a car tire, where it's kind of sticky and it looks like a toothpick, but it's really sticky. And you jam it into the hole, and as you ride, then that fluid seals around what you've jammed into the hole, and it prevents it from going flat. It's I don't know, it's kind of magic.
That's bananas. I think I might have to try that kind of tires now.
Yeah.
You've sold me.
I hate highly recommend.
I mean, who likes it?
I know, and that fluid is amazing. I don't know how it works because it's liquid and then somehow it's solid. And I'm sure someone listening right now is going, "Well, duh, it's science." But anyway, besides that, bike worked beautifully. It's going in for a well-earned service appointment next week, but it's mostly just to find out, after 3,100 miles, I'm sure some things are worn out that need to be replaced.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I'll be interested. We're biking together this weekend, so I'm looking forward to seeing which bike you decide to bring.
Oh, I'm bringing that bike.
You are?
I have a very close relationship with that bike, and I thought, let's ride it until I have to get into my service appointment. It's already filthy. It already, we know each other inside and out, so I'm bringing it.
All your other bikes at your place are giving you the puppy dog look, like, excuse me.
What about me?
Yeah, they'll have their time.
Yeah.
But all right. So then I'd seen multiple posts on your Instagram about how we didn't see any gators. We didn't see any gators. Did you ever end up seeing any gators on your trip?
Man. Okay, so we did Google this. There are about 1.3 million alligators in the state of Florida.
Wow.
Where are they? We saw 2 dead alligators on the side of the road that did not make it across the road. We saw 2 live alligators that were, minding their own business, swimming in a little pond or lake. They did not come close to us. And then we ate multiple alligators
Oh.
well, I didn't because I don't eat that kind of stuff, but I think they're called gator bites. So it's kind of like an appetizer. So, and everyone says it tastes like chicken, but I feel like everyone says that about any meat that's
Yeah.
unique. So
Yeah.
yeah, so 2 live gators the entire trip.
Oh my gosh. And that's crazy because for those of you who don't know, Murph biked across the southern US. I mean, all the different like deep south states, there are gators there.
Yeah, I know. So we were on a bike trail. The route took us on a trail through rural Florida. And what was interesting is we didn't realize there was like hilly forest areas in Florida. So we're on this trail. It's super steep and hilly, and it's, it almost felt like a jungle kind of. And then we saw that there was kind of a side trail that took you to look over this beautiful area, and we were way up high. Anyway, the point of that story was there were 2 women that were, on e-bikes, and they had like a bottle of wine in their basket. So they were probably just, on a leisure ride going to have some fun. And they stopped to talk to us. They gave us some great recommendations on where we should eat that evening. And they both had connections to Iowa. Both of their spouses, like one was from Kansas and one was from Wisconsin. And then we said, oh, we're from Iowa. And they said, oh, have you ever done RAGBRAI? And we're like, oh my God. So we all became fast friends. But then they said, if you go backwards about 1.5 miles, there is a 3-legged alligator that's super tame, which I don't know if I could really trust that.
No.
And I can't remember the alligator's name. Everyone like missed something. So a lot of people will go and, find that alligator and photograph, but we were going the opposite way. So we missed out, but that could have been our 3rd chance at a live alligator.
So close, but yet so far.
I know.
Well, okay, so I want to ask you about one other Instagram post that I saw where you visited a crawfish farm, and tell me what the heck is a crawfish farm.
Okay, so it's actually miles and miles and miles of crawfish farms.
Whoa.
It was crazy, and it did kind of smell fishy as you were pedaling through there. But what it looks like is a really shallow body of water. So think of like a soybean field or a cornfield. Same size, right? It's acres and acres, but it's water with like little stems of something leafy coming out of it. And I believe that they told us it was rice fields.
So, yeah, okay.
Within the rice fields, there are hundreds of little teeny, they almost look like straws. So really big straws sticking up, and they all had colors. And we did see one guy pulling them up, and what they are is a cage. And so within that cage, they put bait in it, kind of like, if you're getting shrimp or lobster or whatever. So they must put those cages into the rice field, and then the crawfish, I don't know if they're eating I don't know what they're doing, but they are jumping in those cages and going into somebody's crawfish boil.
That's crazy. And that's in Louisiana?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I associate crawfish with.
Yeah. But it was like miles and miles and miles of them. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, what a different crop. That's a crop you'll never see in Iowa. So
exactly. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
To see. All right. So now let's move off of the animal life.
Okay.
Away from the animal life, away from the bike. Tell us about some of the interesting or fascinating people that you met on this last third of your journey.
Okay. Well, the most memorable guy that we met was Jack, who is from the UK. And if he's listening right now, hello, Jack. I'm hoping to have him on the Murphology podcast because his story is amazing. It was one of those deals where he somehow had a couple months off of work scheduled, right? And so he's at a restaurant in the UK somewhere, and somebody randomly mentions about there's an opportunity to ride your bike across the United States. And he goes, what? And so he Googled it, found out that Adventure Cycling, who we used, offers up maps. And so he immediately was like, I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to go to the United States and I'm going to ride my bike.
Whoa.
Except he didn't have a bike. He didn't own a bike. He wasn't a biker. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I don't know, and I'm curious how that conversation went with his wife. Like, yeah, I'm just going to go to the United States and ride my bike. But anyway, so he literally did that. He bought a bike and rode it
Wow.
for a couple weeks and was like, yep, cool. And shipped it over to the United States. And he was fully self-contained. So not only was he enjoying his first bike ride in the United States, he was doing it with like 40 pounds of gear on his bike. So
Wow.
we ran into him, I don't know, maybe half a day away from the Louisiana, Welcome to Louisiana sign. And he was with a buddy, Jeff, and I cannot remember. Jeff, I think, was from Washington, D.C. And so we rode with them to the Louisiana sign. So we got some pictures taken and,
Oh, how cool.
went and had a drink with them. And then we saw them, kind of like leapfrogging. The next day we saw him a couple times and then we each went our own way. He was biking more than 50 miles a day, so he got way ahead of us. But the best part was he got to the ocean. He's done. He decides to hang out in the St. Augustine area and kind of explore Florida. And he was still there when we came to the
Oh, how
end.
cool.
So he rejoined us, and he actually ended up staying with us in our RV and went out for dinner with us and then
Aw.
took photos and did the whole deal at the end. So I think we've made a friend for life with Jack from the UK.
Oh, how cool. Jack, you're crazy, and I like that.
I know. And,
I like
I
that.
didn't ask him if he would ever do another bike ride, but I don't know. His wife was flying to the United States and they were going to some sort of music festival. So he was pretty excited about the next segment in his trip in the U.S. So it was pretty cool.
Wow. Now that is a fascinating person that you have
Yes.
met.
Yeah. And,
So that's
and the
cool.
other, two other people worth mentioning would be Jan and Marshall Cohen. And we got connected to them through Party Pat, Mr. Pat Maben from Primal.
Yes.
And Jan and Marshall Cohen have a really strong connection with Alzheimer's Foundation. They have their own bike ride they put on in the Texas area, Houston area. So they are very passionate about Alzheimer's Association and figuring out how to benefit the Alzheimer's Association. So we kind of started connecting with them through texts and phone calls, and they're in Houston. And so they said, when you guys get close to the area, maybe we'll come bike ride with you. And so they always were asking us where we were going to be, and they secretly got us hotel rooms in LaGrange, Texas. And so we were treated to a real bed and real showers and had a great dinner in LaGrange. And if you don't know about LaGrange, there's actually a ZZ Top song about it.
Oh, there is. I know it's a good song, huh?
Yes, it is a good song. Lots of history in LaGrange, Texas. So that was awesome. And then a couple days later, they actually drove to our RV, brought us dinner, brought us gifts. And I think those guys are also lifelong friends. Just really neat people.
They're awesome people. And definitely go look up their bike ride and all about them.
So the bike ride that I was referring to, they just finished it. So it is actually a bicycle ride in Washington, D.C., and it's sponsored by the Alzheimer's Association. So I don't recall the exact name of it, but if you look up Alzheimer Bike Ride, Washington, D.C., you'll see it was pretty cool, and it will definitely be on my list for rides next year, since I don't think I'll be riding across the United States again.
Well, you don't rule anything out, but...
You're right.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a blast. And I'd also like to say, Pat, if you're listening, hey, babe, what's up?
Yeah, hey, babe, looking good.
All right, so kind of along with that on your favorites list, what was one of your favorite or two of your favorite landmarks or landscapes as you rode through the end of your journey?
Every day there were really cool things to see as far as landscape. I'm still like in awe at how the landscape changed as we went across the United States, and how there's a little bit of everything. But man, when we were in Mississippi, the bike route followed the Gulf for a long time. And we're talking beautiful white sand, beaches, the different types of birds and people fishing and sitting on the beach. It was just I don't know, it made your brain kind of slow down. It was just really, really beautiful.
That's cool. And it's something that if you were driving by, you wouldn't really be able to take in the same way.
Yeah, even like the smell of the, the
Ooh,
Gulf and the sand, that was cool.
I love that. And then earlier, when I asked you that question on the first version of this, you were talking about a desert. So
Oh,
it's funny how different it is.
yeah, yeah. And another really cool, I guess, I don't know if landmark is the right word, but part of the route was to take a ferry. So we got
Mm.
to what's called Dauphin Island. Sounds like dolphin,
Oh.
but it's Dauphin.
Mm.
Although they have dolphins as, sculptures and statues everywhere. But anyway, that's in Alabama. And so we took a ferry, about a 45-minute ferry from Dauphin Island across a body of water to get to the other side. And that was cool because then again, you're seeing things that you wouldn't see in a car. And there
Yeah.
were, I don't know, a gazillion's not the right word, but there were lots and lots of the huge oil rig things that,
Oh.
where you work, and I don't know what happens with the oil. We were actually trying to figure it out. Like, does the oil, is it underground in pipes? Does a
Mm.
helicopter come pick it up? Does a boat come? We don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a helicopter.
A helicopter with a little teeny thing with oil in it. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that was also pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So now piggybacking on the favorites theme, I guess I kind of got in a run here when I brought up these questions, but
Okay.
um, did you have any favorite stops? And I'm talking like towns or businesses or anything you'd like to call out specifically, maybe more man-made structures or towns.
Okay. So, of course, New Orleans. My
Mm-hmm.
first time there, so there was just so much to see. What a spectacle above ground cemeteries are. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, and they're so close together on top of each other. That was really a sight to see. And then, of course, we ended up in New Orleans during Jazz Fest. So
Yeah.
we had a scheduled day off, and it happened to be the same day as Jazz Fest. So we
Wow.
ended up not really resting and went to see The Who in concert, which
Wow.
was mind blowing. And that was everything about New Orleans was really cool. I need to
That's
go
so neat.
back there when we're not on bikes, but we did meet a couple. We're at a restaurant. They overheard us talking about biking and they wanted to know our story.
Yeah.
And, they were the Gonsolins, I believe was their last name. And so we said goodbye to them. We're outside unlocking our bikes to go on to our next journey. The husband comes out and says, "Hey, when you get to Pensacola, we would like to host you at the Pensacola Yacht Club." We're like,
Whoa.
"What?" So, yeah. So, fast forward to Pensacola, we got to go to the Pensacola Yacht Club and
Wow.
had a great meal and got to meet all kinds of people. And I drank wine with my pinky out.
Oh, yes, how classy. I love it. That's
Also,
neat.
and also while I'm on the talking about Pensacola, we also were lucky enough to see the Blue Angels practicing. So they
Oh.
were doing their flyovers. And so
Mm.
you would hear them before you could see them, like the sound of, I think is it 5 or 6? I can't remember how many jets there are, but they're
Mm.
in complete super tight formation, zooming around across the sky. And
Wow.
we would see them through the trees. And I don't think any of us were fast enough to actually document, with a photograph. And,
Yeah.
and then when we got to an opening where it was all sky, that's when we saw them landing.
Wow.
But it was pretty cool. The Pensacola Naval Air Station is there, and that was quite a treat.
That's super cool.
I know.
It's funny to think of them practicing like as if they would mess up in any way.
Right, I know. Like, practice probably isn't the right word because,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you gotta run through it a couple times. So,
you're right. You're right.
oh, that's awesome. I remember my trip to Florida recently was crazy how there's just that Spanish moss everywhere. All the
Yes.
trees are just like coated in cobwebs, and that's just the way trees look there.
And
And that's
I did Google
crazy.
it. I Googled it, and it was specifically said that moss is not damaging the tree at all.
Okay, well that's good to know because it's really everywhere.
Yes, I know. It's
Yeah.
almost like horror movie. Like, I think if I was
Yeah.
there at dusk, I would be a little bit creeped out.
Ooh, yeah, like take a Halloween trip. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you already kind of touched on this, but I'm just going to ask you again in case there's anything you forgot to say.
Mm.
What was it like to roll up to the Atlantic Ocean at long last after 64 days?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And we, found this like kind of a weird tiny path to get to the ocean because a lot of oceanfront is privately owned. So you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
always get to it. So we found this little path, which was deep, deep sand. So right away, we're full of sand in our shoes and we get to the actual ocean. And then just to dip your tire and kind of take a deep breath and be like, wow, I did it. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was pretty emotional, lots of hugging and
Yeah.
photos and jumping around and it was funny. We had our tires dipped and we're getting a photo shoot and the water came in. We thought we were far enough away, came in like up to our ankles. So then we all got our shoes wet plus sandy, but who cares at that point?
Yeah. At that point, you don't need the bike shoes anymore. You could throw them in the ocean. You'd be all right.
That's right.
I love that the tradition of tire dipping is the same as on Ragbri.
Yes. Yeah.
You go coast to coast.
Yes. It's amazing. And then, I follow some Facebook groups of other, of people who do the exact same route. And it was interesting how many people did the same thing on the same day, but yet we didn't see them. So,
Yeah. Well, it's a big coast, so
Yeah,
you know, you never know.
and we were okay. So we get done dipping our tires, and then we had a planned event with the Alzheimer chapter of the area, and so we were riding our bikes to the restaurant where they were meeting us, and we're going through this parking lot, and literally someone was like, "Hey, Murph," and I look over, and it's my cousin David Bilstein.
Oh, no way.
Who went to school, who's from Iowa, and he lives a couple hours away. And so he saw on Facebook that I was coming in, and him and his girlfriend decided to come meet. But
how cool.
I saw him and I'm like, what? Wait a minute. And then he's like, yeah, I'm coming to join you. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Oh, yeah. I bet it seemed like it wasn't even real at that point after all that.
You're right. You are exactly right.
Oh, how cool. All right. So awesome journey. Congratulations on a major life accomplishment.
Yes.
I mean, that is just major. And the amount of money you raised for Alzheimer's is incredible.
Agreed.
So just real quick, tell me what's next for Murphology.
Oh, man. This summer, I am like booked solid with different bike rides. So I'm excited that I still want to ride my bike after being on it for 3,100 miles. But so first up, if you're listening to this podcast today, then this is true that Andrea and I will be together tomorrow doing the Pigtails ride.
Yay!
And if you're listening to this podcast after it's already aired, then we'll tell you we already did it. We did the Pigtails ride.
Yeah, I know. I'm so glad that you want to bike with me after all that biking.
Yes, so, I'm excited. Yeah. And then after that, we're doing a kind of a test run of biking across the state of Iowa. And then I'm going to be in Colorado to check out Ride the Rockies. And then before you know it, Ragbri's here.
And they'll be right around the corner. I'm not even going to look at how many days are left till Ragbri because I don't want to know.
I know, yeah. And then this fall, I've got quite a few rides scheduled too. And one of them is a gravel. It's called a race, but again, you already know I don't, do things as races. But I'm pretty excited to see if my new bike is going to handle well in gravel.
Ooh, yeah. I bet it will.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Murph, thank you for sharing all these amazing stories with us. It's been a delight to hear about all your different adventures across these last couple months.
Yes.
It's fun to live vicariously through your many experiences.
Thanks. And hopefully everyone has enjoyed listening.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week with more tales from the trails, although maybe not quite as grand and epic as this one, but we'll be back to it next week and we'll talk to you then.
Sounds good. Well, listeners, that's it for this week. If you're interested in learning more about my bike tour across the U.S., go to my website, which is murphologypodcast.com, and click on the tab labeled Murph's Biking the U.S. Email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting. Support my podcast at patreon.com/murphology and visit both my Facebook and Instagram pages for daily entertainment. Also, a quick shout out to Simmons Electric for sponsoring this episode. I have more great episodes in the pipeline, so I hope you continue to be a Murphology podcast listener. Thank you.